Welcome back to The Short Game. This is your show about short video games, games that respect your time. I am Reagan Kelly, and I am joined this week by three fantastic co-hosts.
Laura Nash,
Nate Heininger,
and Shane Kelly.
And this week we're talking about a very perfectly normal gardening game with nothing surprising or out of ordinary about it. We're talking about Grunn from the Sokpop Collective. This is the first Sokpop game that we've done, and it's kind of surprising given that we've been doing this for 10 years, and Sokpop has been doing their thing for like 10 years.
It's not the first of their games that I've played. I have really enjoyed Stacklands. I don't know if any of you guys have tried that one.
No, I've heard of it. Tell me about it.
Sure. So Stacklands is a kind of a cross between a deck builder and a management game. It's a game where you open packs of cards to kind of get new cards, and then you stack them up to craft resources, build structures, defend your structures, fight enemies, things like that. And it's a lot of fun. It really is a really cool game. It's kind of got that scratches that survival game kind of management sim itch. Along with, also being kind of one of these many card-based games. I think I might be overselling it by calling it like a roguelike deck builder. It's just a very weird, unique thing. So worth playing, and I think they just recently had a bunch of DLC come out for it.
they claim it's that Stacklands since 2022 has garnered over 1 million players. So by far, they say they break out hit. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Now, if you go to the Wikipedia page for Sokpop Collective, you will find that they have more games than you can possibly imagine listed, and none of them have a Wikipedia page of their own except for Stacklands.
I noticed that I went to buy this game and they were like, would you like to buy it as a pack with all the other developer games? And I looked at it, it was something like hundreds of dollars, and I was completely thrown. And then I saw there was 100 games in it. I was like, I think I'll just buy this one.
You almost got me.
But like, good try making me spend $600 and buying all of their games simultaneously. Chose store number 1, and this was plenty weird.
Yeah, the strange thing about Sokpop is they're a 4-member collective in the Netherlands, and their whole deal is like putting out an incredible amount of games. And they have this very strange model where like they're primarily producing the games for their audience on Patreon. So if you enjoy their games, you go and you subscribe to their Patreon, and for like 3 or 5 or 10 or however much you want to give them per month, they just send you every game they make, and they make a game like literally every few weeks. And so if you go and look, like they've been doing this model for almost 10 years, and it literally like well over 100 games. If you go to their Patreon right now, their banner says something like, help us make another 100 games. They kind of organize them into seasons. It's a pretty interesting model. But I think part of the reason that we've never covered any of their stuff before, at least for me, I'm speaking for myself, but like I've been following their work a little bit, but I've never really subscribed to their Patreon personally. I haven't really been deeply into their stuff. And part of it is just that like I always kind of felt like, well, how do I pick one of these zillion things?
Yeah.
And and how do you do that when you're talking about something like Sokpop Collective? Or if I'm going to cover Sokpop Collective more generally, like how do I do like an overview? That's impossible because it's so massive. So I kind of just never did.
Listeners, this is also why we have yet to cover UFO 50.
I was just about to say that. We have this like sweet spot where if there's a lot of something, it might be perfect for us. There's probably 30 games in UFO 50 that we would love to cover, but then like, what all else in the big world of games are we missing? So how many listeners out there are just desperate to find a podcast episode about like, what is this Sokpop game? Human Souvenir. I don't
I
think
mean,
that
but it
the
could be
audience
great.
is really hunting that down.
Might
It
be
could be
good.
great.
Yeah, it could be very good. But this game does seem to stick out, Grunn, partly because of the way it seems to have been released, rather than being part of the. I mean, I think it is part of their Patreon. I think their Patreon subscribers did get this game as part of that thing, but it does seem like the main developer on this game spent more time with this than it seems like they spend generally on a game. And that's also sort of reflected by the fact that this was released at a higher price point. Like if you go and look at their Steam page, almost all their stuff comes out first to their Patreon subscribers. It's also on itch.io, and most of them also make it to Steam. And the vast majority of their games on Steam are like $3 to $4, something like that. And this game was like, what was it? I forget, like 12 or 15 or something.
Mhm.
And that's kind of indicative of like, this was a game that they spent a lot of time on while also releasing other stuff. And it represents, I think, a little bit of a different approach for them, which isn't bad. But I mean, it also, it's good for me in that it sort of told me like, hey, this is the Sokpop game that you should do on the short game.
Yeah.
So here we are. I really liked this thing. This is a really strange and interesting game, and it's the kind of strange thing that you might only get from a developer that has spent a decade honing their craft at releasing incredibly small, weird things.
No, you
that
keep
that
saying
aspect of it is
strange, but I mean, I love a
Perfectly normal
farming
gardening.
sim. You know, I've played my Harvest Moons and I've played my Stardew's and
Great
et
point of
cetera.
reference.
And so, you know, I felt right at home in this totally normal farming game, Reagan.
yeah. The cozy game genre is big now, right? That's what this is, right? That's
This
the
was
vibe here.
reviewed by a cozy game blog because I self-imposed my let's look at what other reviewers say, because this is a difficult game to talk about specifics without spoiling what makes it great. So I wanted to see how other folks did it, and a cozy game blog covered it, and it got a 8 cozy score and a 8 like mildly disturbing score. And I think that is just a
That's a
fantastic
good blend.
combo.
That's a good combo.
It is
Yeah.
balanced on the head of a pin in that regard. It's I have to say though, like one of our patrons on the Discord was asking like, hey, I'm not really into horror games. We'll talk a little bit more about like what kind of structure this is, but this is a structure of game that we love. But being a horror game, he wasn't so into horror games. And I would actually argue that like, as a horror game, this is extremely not scary and not really a horror game in the way that I typically think about horror games. It has some
It really
horror
depends.
vibes.
How afraid are you of ghosts and skeletons?
I'd garden gnomes specifically.
Mhm.
Yeah. And for me, skeletons are my bros. No problems there. And so really it's just jump scares that like this has a small number really for its length of jump scares. And that's about all that makes it a horror game apart from some vibes. It's not a scary game and it doesn't fit into any of the established horror genres.
There's some audio that is chilling. It's a little sort of
Thrilling, chilling sounds. Yes.
Yeah, you know, you're like, I feel like I shouldn't be here right now because of how this music is playing, or it's dark out and it's getting weird and I am spooked by, like, I said this on a relatively, I think it was mouthwashing, that I've realized about myself that I don't really get scared by much like of the visual stuff, but when they have a really good audio design of like, you should be scared right now, that hits me a lot harder. And so some of the tone, some of the atmosphere and the changes as this game evolves started giving me tinglies a little bit, you know.
This game feels like something you would play to prep for spooky season, same as you might watch like a snowy movie in November, but you don't want a Christmas movie yet. Like it feels like a warm-up round for a horror.
Sure.
You're not quite ready for a slasher, but you want some vibes.
Yeah, I can see that. So I feel like we should set up what the game is a little bit. The marketing for this is very, very coy. It's saying, it's a perfectly normal gardening game. Like, what do they say in the Steam description? It's a gardener gets hired for maintenance work over the weekend, a simple task. But strangely, some tools are missing. The owner of the garden isn't around, and their house is off limits. Perhaps new tools can be found in the mysterious town, or maybe some of the reserved townsfolk have seen them. That's the main description, and all over the place with the descriptions of this. They say a normal gardening game.
Yeah, a bunch of normal looking townsfolk too. They just they look like normal people and they talk like normal people. Everything is very normal about them.
Just real normal human people.
First thing you do is you're on this bus and you can go talk to the driver, and the driver looks wrong and talks wrong, and it
How
just
dare
says
you.
cannot understand.
I
Culturally
have to say,
Yes.
the fact that he looks wrong, I think, is primarily something you can chalk up to the house art style of Sokpop. If you look at their overall kind of artistic style across their games, almost everything has a face that is 2 dots and a 1 straight line. So,
so it wasn't the man was not broken. He was just a man.
He's just
a
one of their
Sokpop man.
top-notch.
He's just a man.
Artistic works. Each one of them is very lovingly rendered in a very small number of polygons. The look of the game is probably the most attractive and most unique thing about it. Not just these, characters that are. They have this look that is almost like a mix of low poly art and Mr. Bill. Do you guys remember Mr. Bill?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know how many of our listeners are going to pick up on that reference, but the very simply rendered, but effective. How many lines do you need to represent a bus driver? And then beyond the sort of simplicity of it, which makes it very fun and clear, they have done a lot with color and sort of glow effects and lighting, and there's like a kind of a wiggly effect applied on everything. Everything has this really alive, kind of gnarly look to it that's just really full of great vivid color. So fun game to look at pretty much all the time.
It's also has a very, I think, opinionated first person perspective. Technically, this is kind of weird to explain, but booting this game up. First of all, I started playing on the Steam Deck on a controller, and it has a very strange field of view, wide with a bit of
Very
a fisheye, and it has a very slow turning speed. If you're on a controller with a mouse, it does not. But by default, you can actually tweak that, and I did. But very, very strange, kind of opinionated, look to not just the graphics, but also just the way the world looks when you look around. Very strange. I think meant to sort of give you an off-settling feeling. And first person perspective, if we didn't say that, with this art style, very cool. You wander into this garden, hop off the bus, go into the garden. There's a letter from the homeowner telling you...
The first thing that happens is the mysterious, scary bridge that breaks as you cross it.
Yes.
And then the bus driver's gone.
You have to solve a tiny puzzle, which kind of helps you understand how some of the
there's a key to a gate, and that introduces the main kind of mechanical aspect of this game, which is fundamentally it's a point and click. It's a you're going to go around and collect a bunch of items. Some of those are tools that you can use. Many of them are just sort of key type items of a variety of different kinds, and you're using that to explore.
But there's little Polaroids hung out, and you can look at the Polaroids for hints about where the next thing you could do is. And some of them have cryptic things like 20% or 30% in the corner, and you don't know. When you start the game, you don't know what those mean.
Yeah, 20%
but they become pretty obvious, which is great. Yeah,
and it does, I think, pretty successfully put those Polaroids that kind of give you clues to what you need to do in sensible places. So, for example, if there's a locked door, next to it there may be a Polaroid that indicates where you might find the key to that locked door, or what might be part of that sort of the path to open it, that kind of thing. It's not exactly A to B to C. The Polaroids have a little bit of mystery to them, but it's, I thought, pretty well deployed, while not being a full-fledged hint system. It also does sort of work as a checklist because there are many endings to this game. I think 11, and not all of them require all of the items. There's a lot of different ways you can go, different ways you can explore, different ways you can either die or otherwise end the game. And it keeps track of which endings that you've gotten. Big picture, though, the thing that this game really didn't wear on its sleeve in the marketing. So I hope this doesn't count as a spoiler just to say this, but this game is 100% an entrant into a genre of game that we really love on this show, or have loved at least. I like this one too. I wish we had a better name for this, but
Time loop.
Time loop is one aspect of it, but like I keep hearing the phrase metroidbrania. God, gag me with a spoon.
No.
Please don't do this to us. But
You're not allowed. Get it out.
specifically, I know.
You guys
I'm trying to
hate
come
it,
up.
makes me
I'm
laugh.
sorry. I'm trying to remove it.
Palm Springs, which is get out of the time loop.
So I think time loop is one aspect of it, but like the other key aspect is like it's a game about exploring a space, just like in a Metroidvania where you're expanding your area of ability to interact with the world, finding loops back. So you find it's complicated on the way out and short and easy on the way back because you're opening up space, returning
how about a
paths.
Majora like?
Sure.
You're not
I've never
cutting
played that.
quite as much grass on your third
I'm
death.
furiously Googling to see if someone's come up with a better name.
I really wish they had. Maybe we need to. Listeners, help us out.
Kind of feel like
but like specifically, this is the genre of the Outer Wilds of the world. And this bears more similarity to Outer Wilds than I can think of any other game that it's similar to. I don't mean that it's like a lot like Outer Wilds. I just mean that it's more like Outer Wilds than anything else I can think of.
And it's a puzzle box where you have from the beginning access to many, many, many paths to open your way through it, but your progression is gated primarily by knowing how to navigate the space.
A little like Minute.
Yeah.
I was going to say
is another good
too.
example. Yeah. And like once you get down to it, like even completing the quote unquote good ending, which I took a lot of notes playing this game, and I can tell you without any spoilers here that getting the good ending required 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 specific items, many of which had multi-item paths to get to them and acquire them. And then there's a whole sequence at the end. And even then, because by that point I had done, because this is a time loop essentially, and every time, each one of those items represented an entire playthrough of me exploring, finding an interesting mystery, little path to go down, going through a sequence of events and figuring out at the end of that, oh, hey, I got the mystical thing, right? And then doing that a bunch of times and then trying to figure out like, okay, well, what happens if I get multiple ones of these? Is there something I can do with all of them? And then finally finding the end of the game, which required figuring out a path that would allow me to get all of those within basically a single in-game day. And ultimately, because you can really sprint really fast in this game when you want to, if you know what you're doing and you know where you're going, that final playthrough, despite requiring an enormous number of steps, if I were to write it all out, took about 30 minutes to play. And it was a blast. I really loved it.
This game needs a Galerius.
Honestly, I think the things that it like.
Aren't you the Galerius? Unfortunately,
this needs a Galerius. You are the Galerius in this. It also really needs that map in the ship that in Outer Wilds that like you can go and look at and see everything that you know and see a dependency chart of like, well, okay, if I need this, I need.
We didn't play this on the show, but Haiti Lands lets you save things and just run routines, and that's what I wish I had.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, Outer Wilds really like they nailed it. Like the OG hit it out of the park the first time, and nothing else in the non-linear exploration game genre, has managed to really hit that. Everybody really loves.
Although some would argue that Outer Wilds is a little long and clunky still. So
I think we might have not allowed it to win Game of the Year because of it.
I think you're right. It's a little long. This is the like total beginning to end for this was 4 hours for me. Now I did look up some guide content when approaching that final ending because I wanted to do the good ending before we recorded. I think if I'd really been like not allowing myself to do that, I think it probably would have taken me maybe double that, honestly.
Yeah.
8, but still 10 hours less. No problem.
I spent very nearly 4 hours with it. I did not engage with guide content, nor did I, unfortunately, take notes until fairly late in the process. And
I only did it because
I
you
got
told me
nowhere
to.
near an ending to this game.
Yeah,
You got
I would
endings.
definitely recommend notes.
Oh, I got
the thing that I would
A
recommend
lot of
is
endings I did.
if you're playing through this, have some paper or whatever it is you do to take notes, and if you find a way to do a thing like, hey, I got the blank, write down what you did to do it. Even just like, this, then this, then this, then this. I didn't take like super detailed notes, but for every one of those items, I did write that stuff down. And then ultimately, like,
you need to write down things like, where is the park?
Yeah.
How
do you get to the park?
Yeah.
And the park, there's like 3 different ways to get to the park. And sometimes it's like figure out like, well, which of those is going to be the most convenient if I need to also stop by the blank,
You find out very early the watering can is in the park, which I wrote down, and then it took me 4 deaths to get to the park. So it was doing great. This is a game of many spaces, many hidden objects, and also you do some gardening.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know what you guys are talking about. I spent 4 hours just clipping grass over and over and over.
And so you kept dying for cutting flowers.
I thought maybe this time I'll survive the flower trimming.
What do you guys make of the like setting and story and vibe here? Because it's very weird. It's got this unsettling thing going on. Even having completed the game, I only feel like I kind of know what it was going for in terms of its setting and vibe. You're in this. I was originally thinking like English garden, but it's not. I think it's. I mean, one of the devs said it was based on a garden, in the Netherlands. His father's garden or something like that.
Well, that's the opening. The opening like thing says like this game is based off of my grandfather's garden.
It says.
It's like nothing else.
I took a screenshot of this one. Yeah, you are about to play Grunn, which is a very normal gardening game inspired by my father's garden deep in the Dutch countryside. Have fun, Tom.
Yeah,
have fun.
Thanks, Tom.
And like the first weird thing, like apart from you walk across the bridge and a plank disappears behind you, the first weird thing that I noticed, like it doesn't get weird for a little bit. The first weird thing I noticed was you go into the bathroom in the garden and one of the stalls is locked. And if you look at it out of the corner of your eye, a creepy head pops up over the top of the stall. And of course that's a important puzzle later. Like, what do you do with that guy? And like,
I never found anything to do with that guy.
You just get vaguely creeped out by him
irritated
for a while.
every time he showed up.
I mean, I can tell you this one is not because it's a small one that's a early quest line thing. He just needs toilet paper. You got to find him some toilet paper, poor guy.
That makes sense.
And give
is
it
he
to him.
the same guy who slams the door on you when you go into the house the first time?
I never figured out who that is. That's okay. There's several little jump scares in the game where like, the unsettling looking townspeople just like, little head on a snake neck pops in a window and looks at you and you jump and then you go and look and they're gone.
I'm making several of those. On this audio
I am
podcast.
way too easy to scare. I am. This is just one more example in my life of just how like on edge my nervous system must be. It takes almost nothing to make me like fully jump.
Shane, I don't mean to alarm you, but do not look behind you. Right.
Oh God. Yeah. So this game is, I think I was very seriously oversold when some people described this game to me as a horror game. This game is at best an eerie game. This game has just a really unusual blend of funny, slightly spooky, and cozy. And like the vibe that is synergized there is truly like a rare elixir, but it is it's definitely not scary unless you're me and you have the speakers up very loud.
It does really its only way of scaring you is with like very minor jump scares. And for me, like a jump scare works.
I was scared when you get the trowel. That was a scary scene for me.
Oh, that was a little
a little
unsettling. Yeah, that's true. But like for me,
can
like
I
for a jump scare
one,
to really be
as an example of the bar. Yeah, it's pretty early-ish.
Yeah.
So in that scene, this is one of your first things you're really going to be doing is trying to hunt down all the gardening tools that are missing, because that's kind of the inciting incident. Otherwise you're just going to garden and go home. But the trowel is in a weird bunker, and when you find it, you find the corpse of the old gardener covered in blood, and the trowel. And then on your way out, the place locks and the water starts to rise. And if you're me, the first time you drown. So,
Also me.
yeah. So, I mean, that was a pretty good scene if you're trying to scare me. Like finding a corpse. I mean, sure, it's a corpse that looks like, I don't know, a weeble or something. But it's it's a little bloody, and also it's like, hey, that's a dead gardener. I'm supposed to be a gardener. Let me get out of here. And like you said, Nate, there's kind of some scary music. That's effective.
Also, we know that gardener left a delightful little note before going off and doing something, so seemed like a nice guy. And is there anything? I mean, what a like nightmare scenario of being locked in a room with rising water. Like I would hate. I would pass. That's what I'm saying, Laura. Like, super don't want that to happen to me. You know what I mean? That's what this game made me think about.
There are so many odd. So like Shane mentioned earlier that this reminded him of like point and click adventure games. A lot of the like the early puzzle stuff feels pretty natural. I need a trowel. Turns out the old gardener had the trowel. I got the trowel, and now I can use it to do trowel stuff. But it gets weirder and weirder and weirder as it goes. Like, I don't want to give away puzzle solutions, but just for instance, bringing a dead goldfish back to life, or just like trying to think of things that won't be spoilers. Starting a feud with the gnomes in the garden.
You haven't named anything yet that isn't like a normal day farming. So do you have any other like non-normal gardening activities?
Just the first one that really stuck out at me was the spiritual doot doot horn.
The magical trumpet.
Yeah, the magical trumpet, which just plays the worst.
Probably the high point of the game to me.
Very cool. And you use it to calm ghosts, which is great. So again, this is a game that's like a bit of like all this stuff is like puzzle solutions, and we're trying to skirt around talking about them because this is the sort of thing that people are going to want to explore and experience for themselves. But every one of the items that like you need for that final confrontation at the end is the result of just weird stuff happening, and all of it kind of delightful. Like I had a lovely time finding each of those, and when I could put all of that together and like see it through to the end, that was pretty great.
There is a lot of dream logic to this game. Like there are logic puzzles, but they're more like dream logic puzzles. There's a lot of doorways that I love a video game doorway that is kind of physically impossible that leads to an impossible space. That gets me every time.
It's bigger on the inside.
Yeah, bigger on the inside trope. A lot of the like items that you collect, like there are many like weird dream spaces that you can access as part of this that it seems like there's. Did you get to the point where you went into a weird black void and burned something with a lighter that you acquired?
Little arson, yeah,
stuff like that. Yeah, a lot of really, and there's a moment where spaces that you've been in before. You open the door, you go in, and they're completely different, right? The interior of your cabin has been rearranged in some way or something like that, and it's all impossible, right? The whole experience is very dreamlike, very I don't know how to explain the style here, but it doesn't fit logic puzzle. Really.
Yeah, I know it's a bit of a tired comparison, but like there were times in this where it felt very like the weirder bits of Twin Peaks or something like that to me.
The reason I like Twin Peaks comparison is that when this game does normal, it does it very well. It is incredibly satisfying to run around with those scissors and cut the grass. The cutting animation is very big and like it makes a satisfying noise.
What the heck? Who cuts grass with gardening shears?
That
What
was
is
my
giant
just
gardening
my
shears,
first
and you just
thought,
run
Reagan.
and snip, snip, snip while you hit shift, and you're running when clicking and
It is
cutting, and
satisfying.
everything in your way is cut, and it's great. And that feels weirdly like Twin Peaks would have a scene that was normal but was a little off, and that's what running around with those gardening shears felt like. Oh, I'm doing totally normal gardening.
Look at me, I'm cutting grass. I know how
I'm
to
cutting
cut
grass with garden shears, and it's
Just-
the slice noise is great. I kept thinking I was going to cut someone's head off while I was
arms
running around the grass.
completely extended with shears at the end of them, just running through a garden, cutting things and
As fast as you can.
and then getting killed by
Arms,
ghosts.
yeah. Arms as far out as you can.
The only time I did actual violence with the gardening shears, it was entirely by accident, and I felt absolutely awful afterwards. Did this happen to either of you guys? Any of you guys? I hope it didn't.
I did
no,
most of my violence with the large blood-covered hammer.
Yeah, the hammer's
yeah.
what I use.
I
There's-
did die
there's
because of the cutting shears, but it was.
I'll just say there's a bit with a bird, and I didn't think I could actually hurt it with the shears.
Oh no, that poor little bird, the magpie.
I know.
Sweet magpie.
I
Oh,
definitely
it was-
tested the hammer on a lot of stuff to see what I could break. But
I got that hammer and I went ham on the car for a while.
I did
I
too.
was like,
I
this
thought for
barely
sure.
is an answer.
And then there were pallets on the ground. Then I'm like, I'm gonna break up these pallets. I'm gonna figure
Yeah,
out
there's-
what's over here. And
I
then I
was
just
just
There are a
confused.
lot of things that jiggle when you hit them with the hammer, but don't break. And I was pretty sure if I hit it enough, it would break at
like
first.
one of
I
these
also
things is
saw
gonna
the guy
break
peeping
eventually.
on me right after I got the hammer the first time, and I like ran. I was like, I'm gonna go find this dude and hammer him. That is not a solution, folks. It's not that kind of game. But I was
No,
like,
you just didn't catch him.
clearly, yeah, I'm gonna catch him. That's. It's also not a game where you catch that guy. I was still having fun after several endings and like 3.5, 4 hours. I had not gotten the ending, but I think I felt very close. Like I was mentally done for the night, and I don't believe you continue playing games when you're like feeling satisfied. But
What
if I
kind of
picked it up
podcaster
and
are
looked
you?
at my notes, well, podcaster who lives on the East Coast.
No, I'm with you. No, I've had to learn that lesson myself. I find myself constantly being like, oh, well, I should play this for the show, and then I stay up late, and the last 2 hours of my gaming session are completely useless to me on every level.
I had enough endings, and I had enough of a meal of this game that I felt confident that even though I didn't get the good ending, I didn't feel like it was impossible. So I felt good about my experience. And like, if someone asked me for a review of this game in real life, I'd probably say what I'm saying now, which is I didn't get the good ending. One of us did. And I think I could. I think I was like maybe 2 loops away. I didn't see the huge flaws in my logic. I clearly know what I did wrong on my last run. So I think I have maybe 2 corrections away from finishing. And this game is good because I know how far I am. At the beginning, you have no idea, but I think once you get 2 or 3 hours in, you start kind of getting a feel for how much more of the game is left, which is not the case in Outer Wilds to me.
Yeah, this is a bit of a sidetrack, but I wanted to. This made me think. Like, I haven't really like talked on the show about how good. It's dumb to talk about how good Steam features are these days, but the Steam guides page feature has become the main source of guides for me lately, and it's gotten really, really decent. It really just helps that it's built in on the Steam Deck and also on the Steam desktop client. But like when I did get to the point there where I was like, I think I've got everything, but I'm missing something, and I needed to look at a guide. There were multiple pretty good guides that use spoiler tags, so you could decide like progressive disclosures and things like that. And I could find what I was looking for and know information that I didn't want. And I've had that experience a lot lately in games where like I did want that kind of, I wanted a guide. Man, the Steam guides feature has gotten like pretty good. And I mean, that's really down to the community, but like technically it's decent too. It provides all the stuff that you need. It's got like an index at the side where you can jump to sections. It's searchable. You can, they can include images and screenshots. They can do the spoiler tags on things. It's good technically, and also like has enough of a community around it that in general I've been finding really good stuff there and don't have to go elsewhere.
I don't think any other game platform has that kind of a guides feature built in. I don't really have a point of reference on the
I've
consoles,
never looked at that before. I've just pulled out my Steam Deck to
and
to
the internet
explore.
is pretty garbage when it comes to finding the stuff that's not a video.
Yeah,
That's the thing. Like, I do love video content, but it's going to spoil the game for me. There's no way around it.
Yeah, that's the thing. I like a text guide. I like a text guide, especially if it's got images in it. I love that way more usually than a video, because you can.
Videos are for platformers when I can't figure out if it's me or the jump button.
Or like, what does the boss look like in the third phase, so I don't have to screw up again.
Yes.
Game FAQs does still exist, but like, it's not what it used to be. I think it's owned by GameSpot or now, something like that.
I think it's changed hands a few times. I don't know what it's like these days. But yeah, just wanted to call that out. And also like, hey, buy a notebook and take notes with a pen while you're playing a video game. It's the way to go, man. I've been finding myself doing a lot more of that lately. Is there anything else to say that we can say about Grunn without going deep into spoilers? I feel like probably we don't need to do like a deep spoiler break, because if the people who care about the ending of the game are going to play it, and the people who don't care about the ending of the game, you're good.
Yeah, I like this vibe. We've played some horror-ish adjacent games that are vibey, dark, macabre, and this fits in there. I think a lot of times when people talk horror games, they are explicitly violent or gruesome or rapey or bloody or like dark, and this is vibes. So I just want to say, like, I appreciate more in this space because it's much easier to share with more people. Like, this feels like I can refer it to my husband who does not watch horror movies just as easily as I would someone who does watch horror movies. It doesn't feel like a baby game, but it doesn't feel
it's
like
definitely not for babies. It's interesting how they kind of nailed a really unusual vibe for this. If it were to lean more into horror, I think it would be hard to balance that with making you want to explore and repeat sections. Because if there's like, I don't know, a truly gruesome murder or a really scary thing chasing you, like, are you really gonna want to go down that hallway a second time? But with this, it's just a combination of the fact that like everything is a little bit weird and a little bit cute that makes you want to turn every corner. There's a moment in this game where you're exploring one of these kind of among the creepiest impossible spaces, and you've just seen a dead body, and what is around the corner? It is a snail who's in a race and trying to get to the finish line.
Snail is racing.
There's a
checkered
racing
flag.
The one thing I haven't done in this game that I desperately still want to go back and do is, I hope this isn't too much of a spoiler, is that there is an opportunity to buy a gold medal for the snail.
Yes.
Not a spoiler, a blessing.
I really want to do it. I really want to.
So your exploration is really rewarded in this just by a little fun, little whimsical, and then occasionally they're scaring you to say like, "Aha, gotcha." It's not so much like, it's never a slog. It's more like,
It's a haunted house.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
it's not even
This-
a haunted house. It's just
No.
it's
Lightly
a spooky
spooky.
castle with 1,000 rats.
Well,
You know?
the game
a
is
really
like
crucial
15
thing here is that while there are a few jump scares, you are never pursued by anything, and there's
Yeah.
very little
One
peril.
exception: the strange hallway sequence is creepy in that way.
Oh, okay,
Remember
that
that
is,
one?
yeah.
That's a creepy guy.
But
kinda
that's
chasing you
really
around.
just another kind of jump scare because it's not like you can escape them at that point. It's just it just comes at you.
You're
and game
done.
over.
I tried that one was a little frustrating. I tried a couple of times to see if there was a way to get away from that guy, and
Yeah, there's not.
no.
The snail part and a few of the other things make me think that this game is actually like 15% Tux and Fanny, and that's why that's why we love it so much.
Yeah. First person Tux and Fanny when.
Yeah.
Oof.
But yeah, I really recommend this game. I think it's really great. I think so. It's only on Steam and itch.io, and I suppose also the Patreon of the developers if you want to go that way. $13. I would strongly recommend it to folks. I think this is a really great game in a genre that we don't get very many of, and we essentially never get ones that are this short and yet still feel this complete to me.
Yeah.
So I think really and a great game from an interesting developer that short game folks might want to check out. Maybe you check this out and like their vibe and want to go check out one of the literally like 120 games that these folks have on their catalog. I'll probably be checking out Stacklands, like Shane was mentioning. So, go check them out. Do we have a little time for what's making us happy here at the end? Shane, you sounded like you wanted to go first.
Mine is going to be, usually I try and come with something like a book recommendation, and I don't have anything like that. But what's making me happy this week is also a moral quandary that I found myself in. But during the holiday break, this kind of Christmas break, one of the many black cats in my neighborhood started hanging out near my back door, and my son was constantly going out there to pet the black cat. Now it's a very, very, very sweet cat. This is the kind of cat that clearly has been around people a lot. It let my son walk right up to it and pick it up, no problem. And he's 7. He has not figured out how to be gentle enough with animals yet. So he's like dragging this cat around. Cat has no problem with it. But like I said, I can tell that this cat has somebody who loves it. This is not a stray cat. This cat is already very fat. So
I have met this cat briefly.
Yes.
This cat is well fed.
Mm-hmm. And so this has been my moral quandary, as I said. I took the cat to the vet, but this cat has been at it will not leave my house. If I open my door, the cat runs inside and comes to sit by my space heater. It is a super sweet cat. My wife, my son have completely fallen in love with this cat. I also love this cat. We named the cat Nyx because my son loves Greek mythology, and that's the goddess of darkness in Greek mythology. So Nyx or Nixie. And when I took the cat to the vet, the cat is microchipped. So I found out this cat clearly had somebody who loves this cat. So I went and I tried to look up the microchip in the database, and I got to the point where I was like, as I said, the moral quandary. Do I respect the ownership of this cat who has wandered into and sort of claimed my family and has decided to move in of its own accord? Or do I try to chase down whoever registered this cat in a database in 2002? Or sorry, that's not that old. 2022. It's not an ancient cat.
Ancient fat black boy.
Yes.
Oh my God.
The skeleton of a cat. I may be making the wrong choice, but I have to make the right choice for my family. I think my wife and son would be absolutely devastated if I chased down every opportunity to return this cat. I have looked on Nextdoor. I've looked on telephone poles around the neighborhood. It doesn't seem like someone is looking for this cat. The cat seems like it has it chose to hang out in my backyard with my son repeatedly for days on end of its own free will. Listeners, if you think I made the wrong choice, please let me know. I am torn up inside. I do not want to be a cat thief, but I love this cat so much. And anyway, so that's what's making me happy this week. But like I said, it's also
happy and also a little anxiety.
Yeah, I have a little. I mean, the cat is an indoor-outdoor cat. It could go home at any time. I'm putting this cat out all the time. So it's maybe it is going home. Maybe it's getting like 6 meals a day. I don't know.
This happens. Some people find that their cat has lived a double life for years,
but this cat is living at my house almost 24 hours a day. So I don't know.
Well, I honestly don't know what the right thing to do there is, but I would probably be in the same boat you are. And it's a sweet cat. I liked the cat. It's a good cat.
If it is going home, what I'm going to do is I'm going to I haven't put a collar on the cat yet. I'm going to put a collar on the cat with a number. And if it goes to whoever's house, and they're like, why does my cat have
a collar on it?
They can give me a call.
I think that's pretty reasonable.
That seems like a good effort.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So what a
follow that, Nate.
Yeah. As someone who's also absorbed stray cats into their household, I get it. And some of two of my best friends are.
This cat is way too fat for me to describe it as a stray. This is a runaway cat.
Yeah. Maybe he's looking for a healthier life, and maybe they found it with you.
Well, he ain't finding it with me. He's gained weight since she came.
It's because he's eating twice.
Yeah,
yeah. So this weekend, Molly and I had some time, an extended time to play video games, and which doesn't happen very often. So we thought, well, what should we play? All right, let's crack open Baldur's Gate 3 again, which we really. As a multiplayer game, we'd only really scratched the surface. And the reality is it's like, I think that game is incredible, but for like just picking something up after a really long time and the split screen sort of gameplay of it made us ultimately say, you know what? I don't think that we have the drive to like fully get back into this game and play it right now. So we decided to go to an old standby, a game that we've actually done on this show before. But we're revisiting it, playing it from the beginning. And that's Overcooked 2. And we just have been having an absolute blast with it. So I'm not going to say anything new about this game that hasn't already been said before. We were
ended my marriage.
Yeah, well, that is part of it. But we've done. We have found a balance in mutual calamity. You know what I mean? Like I have ruined it probably a little bit more than she has, but she also has had her moments of just like everything is on fire on her side of the kitchen. So, we just, don't get too big for your britches because you're gonna screw something up and everything's gonna fall apart. But we love it, and we've been playing like we have to 3-star the level before we move on, which has made it even more challenging, but in a lot of ways more fun. And since we stopped playing it and picked it back up, they've released seemingly 1,000 little DLC packs, which we're excited to dig into at some point. But yeah, Overcooked is just one of my favorite games of all time. I think for this, which we're always looking for a good couch game, and it just has a perfect blend of chaos, yelling at each other, and extreme satisfaction when it works.
I have I have a little bit of a similarly a parenting and moral quandary to share, similar to Shane's. Not that similar, really. but
Reagan
it
put
does
his
also
daughter
involve-
outside.
He found
and
a
she
s-
keeps coming home, and he's
It's just
like,
fatter and fatter.
she just keeps coming home fatter.
Got a
and
new
fatter.
collar
That's a real
on.
Hansel and Gretel problem.
Yeah, yeah.
No, my problem is that my black cat ran away. Where'd she go?
No.
No. So just preface this by saying, I swear I'm not a monster to my children, and but sometimes when
Maybe
a child is
don't ever
terrified,
wanna
it's
start a
absolutely
series.
hilarious. Okay, sometimes when your
Yes.
children are scared, it's just a very, very funny thing. So I have a 2-year-old son. He's adorable and fearless, just absolutely fearless. Nothing gets to him. And he has 2 older siblings, and so he's got to be fearless because he stands up to them and pushes them around. And then they recently got some very realistic stuffed animals from one of my aunts as a Christmas present. Like a little sort of realistic looking fox and a what was one of them, an owl.
They're
and,
finger puppets. She sent the same
Yes.
collection to my son.
and a squirrel. And we recently discovered that the squirrel finger puppet, here it is. I'm holding it on camera for those of you
Okay.
who are looking at a
Yes.
video version. He's cute,
Wow.
right? Just
Wow.
adorable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But my 2-year-old is absolutely mortally terrified of this thing.
I love
Like,
that.
and whenever it's around, he looks at it and he does the little like big eyes, does the little dance that's like feet, like the terror dance. And he'll say, "Scary mouse, scary mouse, scary mouse." I have explained to him it's a squirrel, but that doesn't set his mind at ease. The scary mouse absolutely terrifies him. And of course I put it away, right? Of course I put it away because
But then, of
I
course,
love
you
him.
brought it out.
But then, of
To show your
course, I
wife.
threw it at him because it's the funniest thing in the world to see
Yeah,
him
I'm
panic.
definitely like hiding that in their dresser drawer or something. You know,
Uh-huh.
Yeah. hmm So that's what's making me happy today in particular is Scary Mouse. He's so cute. Poor guy. I can't believe he has me for a father. And Laura, what's making you happy this week?
So I asked for Christmas. At some point I was told I didn't have enough things on my list. So I threw on, I was like, just wrote fancy chocolates. Get me some really fancy chocolate. Because we went to last year when we were in Belgium, we went to a bunch of the best chocolatiers in the world, and we got like 4 or 5 little bits, and we sat on the stoop and we ate them, like the terrible tourists we were, and adored it. So I was like, well, what if I asked for fancy chocolate? And I linked to something that someone had referred to me because I really liked, and in Seattle, Theo Chocolate had a bread and chocolate bar that was just bits of bread and chocolate. So I searched fancy chocolate, bread, chocolate, and found a place called J Street Chocolate in San Francisco. And I just didn't look at the prices and put it on the list. And then I got a gift pack for Christmas. Turns out all these bars are $12 to $15. And I was like, what on earth could these chocolate bars be? Turns out they are absurdly delicious. And I was like, oh no, I have fallen in love with the very fancy forbidden chocolate bars. This is not an ad. This is a gift, but they're all weird. Like, one of them is like an Italian liqueur infused one. One of them is called beer snacks, and they've got little bits of corn, like the corn pop things you eat at a bar mixed in. There's one that has olives in it. Like, there's one with babka in it. Like, they're so strange. We got a pack of 5 bars. We're eating them incredibly slowly because you have like 3 little nuggets and you feel satisfied. So we're splitting the bar. We're having like 3 squares max per meal. We're going to try to keep them going as long because I cannot afford, my family cannot afford for me to fall in love with these chocolate bars. But I will say, like, I have 2 recommendations to make me happy. One is, apparently if you write, I would love this, but would never get it for myself in a million years. That is the trick to get what you want on your wish list.
Sure.
As this would make me so happy, but I would never buy it. Apparently
That's a
what
good gift
did
too,
it.
right? That's what
Mhm.
I mean. Most people want to buy something like that than like a random thing from an Amazon list.
Right. It's gone. It's small. I can put
Yep.
it in my pantry and it'll be gone in 6 months. So it doesn't take up room in my house. And the
You have a
second
lot of
thing is
restraint
like,
if you can hold off for 6 months.
we're trying. So sorry. We're like, should we have fancy chocolate tonight? I was like, I have to record. We can't have the full, like, long savoring. Like, we're not going to gobble this in 10 minutes. Like, no fancy chocolate tonight. I had to record. But it's making me really happy. And if you have something that you like, getting like one small batch of an expensive thing is sometimes worth it.
Like you're treating it,
nice.
it's like a drug. Like, babe, come on, let's do the fancy chocolate. And you're like, no, I gotta go
just
to
one square.
I gotta be on a call tonight. Oh, come on, just one square, babe.
Just one square. But you haven't had the chai one yet. Oh, that would be really nice.
You'll be fine. You'll be fine. What time do you record? 9? You'll be fine. You'll be fine.
And I I just take 30 minutes to eat 3 squares of chocolate, and I'm dangerously late for the recording.
I would have eaten them all on the first day.
Just like
they also
bites out of the bar, not even breaking off the little squares, just
unhinge my jaw like a snake.
Just stack them. It's better if you combine them, right?
Yeah.
There was a video that went viral
of eating $60 worth of chocolate in like 4 bites and just being like,
There was a video of some basketball
Christmas.
player. I forget which basketball player it was, but they had like a full Kit Kat, like a full rack of Kit Kats. You know, it was like 4 or 6 or whatever comes in the. And they just ate it like a candy bar without breaking the Kit Kats out of there and just eating it top down.
Psycho behavior.
Yeah, absolutely insane. And that's what I think Shane would do with these $60 chocolate bars too.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the pack is, but they're individually 12. But still, it is an exorbitant amount. But then I had them and was like, oh, these are all like made in someone's personal home kitchen. Like
these were worth the $600 it cost for the pack.
I would, $6,000 chocolate bars to it.
Well, listeners, thank you so much for joining us on this episode of The Short Game. If you, for the cost of just one $60 chocolate bar per year, you could be one of the patrons of this show. This is an entirely listener-supported show. Our listeners help us keep the show running, host the show. It helps us pay for games, replace equipment that breaks. There's a lot of little expenses that come up when you run even a little hobby project show like this, and having those listeners in our corner really, really helps. But also, they're a great part of our community. When you subscribe on our Patreon, you get instant access to our Discord, which is the community where we talk about the show, plan episodes, talk about games generally. And it's generally just a good hang online. So if you would love to join us there, if you'd like to check that out, we would love to have you. We always welcome people joining the Short Game Discord. So you can find all of that on the internet at shortgame.fm or patreon.com/theshortgame. Shortgame.fm was the landing page for the show. Send that link to your friends. But it's got all the links and buttons and everything there. You can subscribe on all the different platforms. We really appreciate all of our patrons and all of our listeners. Thank you so much. We're glad to be back here in 2025. Next week might be a little bit different. I think, if I recall from the schedule, we're doing a topic-oriented episode. Is that right for our next one? Rather than a specific game?
I think it's Laura got a Steam Deck episode.
Yes.
Or it's the game. I don't remember which one is next.
Oh, well, I think our next episode, don't hold me to this, is going to be us chatting about the state of the Steam Deck. Laura's new to the Steam Deck. I've recently upgraded. We're all big Steam Deck lovers, but there's been some interesting developments there, and we may have a special guest, hopefully, depending on the scheduling. But we're looking forward to that chat. So join us for that next week, and then let us know if you have specific short games that you're looking forward to. The spring, especially like next month, is looking really busy. I think like stuff like Citizen Sleeper 2 is coming out. Might be too long for for us. We'll see lots of other like really interesting stuff on the horizon. If there's a game that you're especially interested in coming up and you think it might be right for the show, hit us up. Again, the Discord is great. It's patreon.com/shortgame. If you're not there, that you can also email the show. All the contact info is on shortgame.fm. So all that is to say, thank you so much to our listeners. Thank you for joining us. I've been Reagan Kelly.
Lauren Ash.
Nate Heininger.
And Shane Kelly.
And thanks once again for joining us on this episode of The Short Game.